Just give me the confirmation whether slide is visible for you.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So beginning with the next lecture or the series of lectures in terms of indirect taxation, and we have started with the concept or the features of GST, that is goods and service tax. So in the earlier lecture or the first lecture, we have understood what is the composition of GST, how it is to be made applicable, how it is to be charged, where it is to be charged, and other concepts with respect to the various terminologies that have been associated with GST. Second chapter, then another major perspectives in terms of the first chapter, we have understood and learned the various steps in formulation of GST. So what is the process or steps in which the GST has been implemented and what activities or processes it has been taken forward. Second chapter, we have started with the consideration of registration as a process. So if a particular trader or if a particular person, to be specifically the person who is eligible under the registration process, and how does he has to register himself to get certified or to get authorized under the purview of GST. Now, the various silent features of the registration process. The first thing, the major understanding that you have to make at this particular place is GST is always a PAN-based registration. PAN means permanent account number. So, as the PAN number or the permanent account number, which has been provided by the Income Tax Act 1961, so every person, person who is able to pay the taxes and in or under the provision of GST has to mandatory get the PAN authorized or PAN number from the respective authorities. Unified applicants application to both the tax authorities. So you have to make the application that which is a uniform application to both the authorities, wherein you have to make the application for the direct tax and indirect tax purpose. Direct tax, if you have employed a certain if you are employing a certain employees, then for the payment of the TDS you have to get yourself registered, and accordingly your PAN number is been required. And for the payments of your taxes for the either the goods or for either the services, you have to get yourself registered or you have to apply with the concerned authorities of GST or the GST Council or the GST authorities at the respective district level. The application process, the application that you are making for the either the GST authorities or the income tax authorities has to be specifically made within the 30 days. So 30 days is a specific time duration within which you have to make the applicability, and accordingly the registration process can be completed and you have to file the application. The state-wise registration for entities having presence in more than one state. So now in earlier lecture or in earlier slides, you must have also seen that if your place of business is at different locations, then at different locations, you have to get yourself registered. But it only matters with the concern of a state. That is, if your business is located in Maharashtra, and simultaneously if your business is in Madhya Pradesh, Gujarat, Bengal, West Bengal, Haryana, or Tamil Nadu, then accordingly at respective each state level, you have to get yourself registered. Deemed approval within the 3 days. So whether your application is accepted or not accepted, whether it has been scrutinized or not scrutinized, if there are any discrepancies found in the application, it will be communicated to you within the period of 3 days. So after the 3 days, it is deemed approved that the application will be proceeded further, and the registration number or the GST number will be provided for you. Within a PAN, separate registration for separate business verticals within a state is possible. So now, as we have seen earlier, that is with respect to the business verticals of a different level. So if your business verticals are different, then accordingly for each different business vertical, you can register your business, or for a single business, that is a single organization as a whole, you can get a single registration also. So different verticals of the business can be registered in different states. Also, this option is also made available. For example, if your business has been, if you are in business of printing, and this particular printing business is in state of Maharashtra, is in state of Punjab, is in state of Haryana, and so on, then accordingly at different states you can register your business. If your business is of providing allied services, then for the allied services also you can register with the one state also, or for several number of states also. Now, understanding the structure of GST, that is, hello. Okay. Now understanding what is the structure of the number, that is the GST number, in which composition it is been determined or it is been provided for you. First thing, the 50, it is a major consideration that you have to understand is GST number is a 15-digit alphanumeric number. Alphanumeric in the sense it is a combination of alphabets, and it is a combination of numbers also. So both the composition will become combined in this particular state, and accordingly the 15-digit alphanumeric number will be provided for you as a GST. Always it is a state-wise number, and accordingly whichever state that you're representing for, the state will be provided, and accordingly the number will be allotted for you based on the PAN. So major another features or the perspective is always first thing that you need to have to get yourself registered, to get your registration number is the first thing, that is you have to have a PAN number. So unless until you don't have a PAN number, the GST cannot be generated or cannot be provided by the GST tax authorities. The 13 digit for the business verticals of the entities with same PAN in the same states. Now, how is this particular number decided? Now, here you can see the state composition is provided as 1, 2. So in this way, each and every state in a particular country, that is in India, is provided a certain number. That is Delhi, the state of New Delhi may be 01, the state of Haryana may be 02, the state of Punjab may be 03, the state of Himachal Pradesh may be 04, and so on. So in this way, every state is provided an number or a 2-digit number or a 1-digit number, whatever it may be. So in this way, every state is having a number. So these are the compositions. So how 15 numbers have been divided? Now, first composition, for example, 1, 2 is a respective state. Same case in the state of Maharashtra, the registration number is 27. So your state, your number of registration will start as 27 and further. Second, that is the next, that is 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. So always your PAN number is always provided in a 10-digit format. So your first 2 digits are the composition of the state, and next 10 digits, that is 2 plus 10, it becomes 12. So your 12th number will be your PAN number. So in this way, the PAN number will be allocated, and accordingly from 3 to 12, you will be having your PAN number of the business entity. The 13 digit for the business verticals of the entities with same PAN in the same state. So if the business were now depending on the verticals or the business type of business, whether you are public sector, private sector, cooperative, non-cooperative, government, aided, non-aided, and so on. So these are the various entities. So depending on the business vertical, depending on the entity of your business, the 13th number is been provided. 14 digit left blank for the future use. So if there is further increase, further increment or further addition to the various entities, then accordingly the entity number will change. So it may become 10, 20, 30, 34, 35, and so on. So in this way, the 13 or the 14 digit is intentionally left blank. 15 digit is a checksum. So 15 digit is a checksum wherein depending on the availability of that particular code or availability of a particular number, the 15 digit will be consumed or it will be occupied. Now it may be a particular number from 1 to 9 or an alphabet from A to Z. So in this way, a combination of an alphanumeric can be made available at the 15 digits. So an so a total sum of all the PAN numbers of the alphabets, or a sum of an 9-digit numbers can also can anything can be provided at the 15th place. So in this way, the structure of GST, that is goods and service tax identification number, is into existence, and you can identify or define a particular business. In the GST, the state code as defined under the Indian Census 2011 will be adopted. And in terms of Indian Census 2011, each state has allotted a unique 2-digit code, example 09 for the state of Uttar Pradesh and 27 for the state of Maharashtra. So census. So as has been, each will be having that respective code. So here in this particular example for the state, that is if your business is registered in Uttar Pradesh, then it will be 09. If your business is in state of Maharashtra, then it will be 27. The 13 digit will be an alphanumeric number, that is 1 to 9, and then A to Z would be assigned depending on the number of registration or legal entity having the same PAN. So the 13th digit, that is whatever it may be. So it may be either 0 to 9 or it may be either A to Z, whichever alphanumeric double, depending on your type of business entity, whichever is you are ruling for. For example, a legal entity with a single registration within a state would have 1 as the 13 digit of the GST. And if the same legal entity goes on for a second registration for a second business vertical in the same state, this 13 digit of the GST assigned to this second entity would be 2. So depending on how many entities in the business verticals you have, and accordingly the number will be provided for you. So it may be either 0 to 1, 0 to 9, or it may be from A to Z. Depending on the business verticals. This way, 35 business verticals of the same legal entity can be registered within a state. So different verticals of the business are also been provided, and accordingly you can register the business activities under a single vertical or multiple verticals. Display of registration number and certificate. So what are the various places wherein you have to you have to display your registration number and your certificate of registration under the GST. First thing, every registered person shall display his certificate in a prominent location at his principal place of the business and at every additional place of a business. So for example, I'll give an example for you. That is State Bank of India. Now State Bank of India, a particular company which is providing services and goods to the customers. That means the persons who are coming to the bank. So in this way, if the GST number has been provided for the State Bank of India, then what SBI has to do? SBI has to display this GST at the respective registered office. So wherever they are registered or the head office is, that is either it is located at Mumbai or it is located at New Delhi. At that place, that is the head office or the corporate office, you have to display your GST number, and at simultaneous places of the business or the additional place, that is at each and every branch or each and every office, the registration number has to be displayed in a legible way. Prominent location is a particular location. Now the definition of prominent location mean wherever it is been visible for each and every individual who is visiting your organization. Now any type of a stakeholder, that is if you are, any customer is coming, any businessman is coming, any outsider is coming, any government entity is coming, any employee is coming, any employer is coming, anyone who is visiting your business premises, for all of these people the GST number must be visible and it should be clearly identifiable. So that particular place is called as a prominent location. So it must be displayed at that place. Every registered person shall display his GST on the name board exhibited at the entry of his principal office of the principal place of the business and at every additional place of the business. So another major essential requirement of the registration number is it must be displayed on your board also. So wherever your name board is been exhibiting, at that place also the GST number must be in exhibited, or it must be properly provided so that it is visible for each and everyone who is looking at your board. So now if you come across various shops that are made available in the market, then what you see, the GST certificate is also available at the cash counter, and simultaneously the GST registration number is provided on the the board or the whiteboard or the blackboard or the LCD board, which has been displayed at the outside place of that particular business. So at every stage, at every point of time, you have to display this board which is available, sorry, the GST number which has been obtained or which has been given for you. Getting registration, migration of existing taxpayers to the GST network, that is GST database taxpayers with a valid PAN. So you always we have to see that from where business verticals, which business is getting migrated. So if you are moving or transferring your business from one place to another place or one state to another state, then for this particular situation or the duration also, you have to get yourself registered with each and every individual state also. So migration in a sense, transferring your business activity from one state to another state. That is, if your business has been located in Maharashtra and you are starting your business in the state of Karnataka, then you have to register yourself at Maharashtra also, and you have to register at your business at Karnataka also. Why? Because depending on that, your state code will differ, your PAN number will differ, your business vertical will differ, and so on. Online application form through GST common portal. So always you have to follow the particular rules or guidelines that have been provided on the GST common portal, and accordingly everything has to be complied on that particular portal only. So GST portal is a very comprehensive and easy and handy portal wherein you can easily go and access all the information and provide or take any information that you like. So filing of return, registration process, any query that you have to raise, any compliances that you have to make, any follow-up that you have to take, each and everything can be done at the GST common portal, which has been provided for all the traders. Constitution of business. So for getting the proper registration of your particular business, you have to prepare a proper constitution. That is, your memorandum of association and articles of association must be clearly defined. It must be clearly explained, and accordingly it must be kept as a part of an registration authority, or it must be displayed with the registrar of companies also and with the GST authorities also. Principal place of business. So principal place of business, it specifically defines about what is your registered address, what is your official address or the corporate office, and what are the various branches or the locations where you are conducting the business activities. So if your business is been specifically at the place of Pune, then you don't have to give many information, and you can conduct the business activities in Pune itself. But apart from Pune, if your business has been located at Mumbai, Nagpur, Bangalore, Delhi, Hyderabad, Chennai, and so on, then accordingly you have to provide which is your principal place of business, whether the principal place is Pune or whether the principal place is Mumbai or Delhi or Bangalore or Chennai or whatever it may be. So in this way, you have to look at a certain concern wherein which is your principal place and which is your additional or supporting place of business. Bank account, the information related to your bank account, that is the current account that you have prepared of your respective bank, that information also has to be provided on the GST common portal and the GST network database. So whether your bank account is of either available with a public sector bank or a private sector bank or a cooperative bank, accordingly all the bank information details has to be provided with the constitution of the bank account number, the name of the bank, the IFSC code, the bank details, the authorized signatory, the nominee whosoever is been appointed, the PAN number of the respective people, the Aadhaar number of the respective peoples who are the signatorized authority, and so on. Authorized signatory, now information about the authorized signatory with respect to the who is eligible or who is authorized to sign the check of a respective company or the business. So you have to provide the information about the authorized signatory also. So if a particular draft or if a particular business or deal has to be signed, or if a MOU has to be been prepared, or if a check has to be signed, then who is the signatory authority? You have to provide or compliance with the KYC norms of the banks also, and the KYC norms with respect to the GST authorities also. And lastly, the consideration with respect to the photograph. So if it is made available, then accordingly you have to provide the photograph of the respective authorized signatories also. Email and SMS based alerts to the applicants. So what the government has done, the government has provided a certain feasibility or a certain option with respect to providing the facility of email and SMS. So whenever you are getting yourself your business registered with the GST authorities, you have to submit yourself with an email address and an SMS or a mobile 10-digit mobile number, and accordingly all the updates or all the information regarding to the government decisions, rules, regulations will be communicated on the email and the SMS or the mobile number that you have been provided via SMS and email facility. No application fee. So at several stages for several or different types of business, there is no application fee, but for several different types of business, the application fee is being charged. So depending on the business, depending on the vertical that you are dealing into, depending on which type or nature of your businesses, you have to pay the respective amount of application fee. Application can be filed through the facilitation center, that is FCs, or through a GSTN website directly. So but two options are available for you. That is, first thing, you can approach the facilitation center or the Setu Suvidha Kendra that is made available by the government. You can approach there, and a physical or the online the document verification and the submission of the forms can be done, or you can approach the direct GSTN website and the entire process can be done online also. The GST registration app. Now, additional to this, now the various new additional feature the government has been established or installed in the year 2018-19 is with respect to the app-based system. So they have their respective own app, and on this particular app you can conduct or you can track all your activities or whatever the information that you have to look for. So for registration purpose, you can visit or download that particular app also, and all the activities can be done on this particular scenario. फोनचं बघता का? Now the GST registration background process. So how does the background process works or how it is been undertaken? Now on the right hand side, you can see the various forms that have been provided and what are the various steps that you have to conduct. So GST registration number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So under various 6 steps, the particular process has been conducted, and at different levels, the activity is been conducted. First thing, application for the registration. So the initial stage or the first stage in getting the GST number or GST registration number is first thing you have to apply for the registration along with the documents that we have already discussed earlier. So within 3 days, approval or the raising a query. So within 3 days, what happened? The government may raise a particular query or may ask you for a certain clarification, and this particular query is been coming from the GST authorities. So authorities may raise a certain amount of query, and accordingly you have to comply or fulfill with this particular query. Now there are either two ways. The query may be raised or a query may not be raised. So if a query is not raised, then what happens? The further process starts. That is, automated registration certificate is being provided by the GST computerized network. So if there is no query in your particular application or the document that you have submitted, then you get an automatic certificate. But if the query has been raised, then accordingly what happen, the application will provide the applicant will be provided with the deadline or duration of the 7 days, and within those particular 7 days you have to comply with these particular things or the norms that have been suggested, and accordingly you have to come with the process. Next thing, now if there is a particular query and this particular query has been informed to the applicant, then what the applicant will do, either the applicant will provide the information or the applicant will not provide the information. So if the information has been provided by the applicant, then again within 7 days you will be communicated with the approval or the rejection of the particular concern, and accordingly either the query may be raised or the refusal of the grant for the registration. So depending on the second chance that has been provided, that is, this is the first chance wherein a query is either raised or not raised, and you have complied with this particular query, and now again it is a particular stage that you may have an additional query or you may don't have an additional query. So if there is no query raised at the second stage, then what happen, automatically you get the automated registration certificate and the business is been registered and you get the GST number. But now again, for example, if there is a refusal to the grant, that is again a certain discrepancy or the drawback has been found in your particular system, then again, information or the GST go to the appellant authority, and accordingly the appeal has to be filed with the respective authorities. So if the district level is not been provided or satisfying, then you can respectively approach to the state level, and if you are not satisfied with the state level, then you can approach the GST council or the respective high courts or supreme courts for the getting the registration. Authorities here means the central authority and the state authority. So only two authorities are made available, that is a particular person or a particular office which has been registered at the state level and a particular office at the central level. So in this way only two authorities are into existence. Now this is the particular consideration about the steps that we have already seen in the flow chart. So online verification of certain details like PAN, CIN, bank account if possible, Aadhaar card, PAN card, and so on. So all these particular details will be checked and it will be verified by the GST authorities. Online communication of application to the jurisdictional authority by backend modules of tax authorities. So the respective tax authorities or GST authorities who have taken this particular application, they provide the information or they scrutinize this particular application with respect to the territorial jurisdiction. So whether your business, if your business has been located in Pune, then the information will be cross-checked with the register of companies at Pune, with the PAN authorities of Pune, with the respective CIN or the bank accounts or the bank details or the bank managers of Pune, and accordingly the information is been cross-checked and verified. 3 common working days for a tax authorities to respond. So officially or upon a proper concern, the 3 official working days have been provided for each and every tax authority, and within 3 days or after 3 days, they have to mandatorily reply to the concerned applicant who have applied for the registration number about whether the application is accepted or whether the application is rejected, and if it has been rejected, what grounds or what measures the company or the individual has to take for. Deemed approval after the 3 days. So once the particular all the documents are the scrutiny has been done, then accordingly you may get a certain certificate called as a deemed approval certificate. So and immediately on the basis of 3 days, the deemed approval certificate can be provided for you or can be made available by the GST authorities. Single opportunity to tax authorities to raise the query if any. So 7 days for the response and 7 days for action. So if any query has been raised into this particular concern, then again you have to provide a notice to the particular registration person, registering person, and accordingly you have to see that the particular person is complying with that particular respective norms whichever are being provided. So 7 days of duration is being provided to fulfill that particular query, and further 7 days have been provided for compliance of the registration number. So whether the particular company or the particular business vertical is been eligible for the registration or whether they are not eligible for the registration. Approval process, online grant of the registration. So whatever the certificate that you receive of the GST, that is GST, goods and service tax identification number, it is specifically provided in an online format. So you get an online certificate, and accordingly as and when the need is being required, you can take the printout of this particular certificate and it can be displayed on all the places that has been showcased or that has been informed to you. So always the grant of registration is online. The application for registration is also online. Login ID and temporary password communicated to the taxpayer. So once, unless your business has been registered properly, all the transactions or all the compliances, the documentation of fulfills of formalities have been completed, then accordingly you get a temporary login ID and password, wherein after a period of time, that is after your first attempt, you can change the password respectively. Your login ID or the user ID will remain same. downloadable registration certificate to be provided by the GST. So at this stage, again, a certificate of the registration will be provided by you, and accordingly, you can download that particular certificate from any place or any point of time. So the downloadable registration certificate is available in your respective profile. Refusal to register by one tax authority deemed as refusal by the both. So if any tax authority is cancelling or refusing to provide the tax details or the tax authority number for you or the GST number for you, then accordingly there is no amount of appeal available for you, and accordingly you have to look back for a different process, and accordingly the new registration process has to be fulfilled or it has to be complied for. Now, if a particular GST tax authority is refusing to provide you the GST number, then accordingly it has been assumed that the authority at the state level or the authority at the central level, both the authorities are also rejecting for providing the registration number. So in this way, refusal to register by one tax authority is deemed as the refusal by both the authorities at the center or as well as at the state. Amendment of registration. So every registered taxable person shall inform the proper officer of any changes in the information furnished at the time of registration or that furnished subsequently in the manner and within such a period as may be prescribed. So if you have to change or if you want to amend any contents or parts in the registration format, then accordingly you have to apply with the respective authorities and you have to see that the changes or the amendments have been done accordingly. So whatever amendments that you have done, you have to see that the amendments have been done in a proper way, and it has been communicated to all the respective stakeholders or the authorities whosoever are concerned with. The proper officer may, on the basis of information furnished or as ascertained by him, approve or reject amendments in the registration particulars in the manner and within such period as the case may be prescribed of. So, based on the amendments that has been provided, the information officer may see that whether there is a certain situation or the liability of either amending or not amending, and whether the amendment is required or not required, and accordingly they can look for providing the approval or rejection for the GST certificate, provided that approval of the proper officer shall not be required in respect of the amendment of such participants as may be prescribed. So as amendment is been prescribed by the central government or the state government, you can see and you can identify that either the particular registration may be provided for you or the other registration may not be provided. So in this way, the approval of the proper officer shall not be required in respect of the amendment. So whether the officer provides you the permission or may not be provides you the permission, if all the compliances have been fulfilled, either all the documents have been fulfilled, then accordingly the case can proceed further, and accordingly you can file the respective returns or your registrations. Amendment of registration. The proper officer shall not reject the request for amendment in the registration particulars without giving a notice to a show cause and without giving the person a reasonable opportunity to be changed. So here at this stage, you have to provide a proper notice to or a show cause notice to the respective parties who are concerned with it. And accordingly, if the particular notice has been served, then you have to see and you have to wait that what decision can be made by the respective appellant or the decision making authority. So in this way, the notice whenever it has been given, you have to see that a person who is having a reasonable opportunity or a reasonable time to reply this particular application, and accordingly the information that is been required can be easily provided by the business. Any rejection or the case may be approval of the amendments under GST Act, AGST, CGST or SGST Act shall be deemed to be a rejection or approval of amendment under the SGST or Act or AGST Act of 2003. So in this way, rejection. So depending on your rejection percentage or rejection ratio also, you have to identify whether you are properly registered or not registered, what are the various compliances and liabilities that have been associated with you, and how do you have to fulfill all those compliances. So in this way, the amendments of the registration process can also be provided. Registration under GST and UNO. So if your business has been for several verticals or several different types of verticals, then accordingly the respective space agency, that is NASA can provide you the particular information in coordination with the UNO, that is United Nations organizations, and accordingly the information can be collected and it can be scrutinized. Next, additional information with respect to the United Nations is also applicable, and accordingly you can conduct or verify or scrutinize those activities also. The information has to also be communicated with the UNO, the WTO, consulate or the embassy of foreign countries, and any other persons or the class of persons as may be notified by the board or commissioner. Now, what you have to do for communicating this particular information, you have to see that you have a proper unique identification number, that is UIN number, that is GST, and in the manner prescribed for the purpose of notified, including a refund of taxes of the notified supplier of the goods and services are received by them. So in this way, at every stage or point of time, you have to see that all the information that you are providing is quite correct. It is provided appropriate, and accordingly, it has been conducted in an effective and beneficial way, both to the trader and both to the consumer also. Registration of casual taxable person and non-taxable taxable person. So the certificate of registration issued to a casual taxable person is valid shall be valid for a period of 90 days from the effective date of registration, received or extendable by another 90 days at the requisite taxable for pre-second era, that is registration number 9 or registration number 11 era. A taxable cashable person or a non-resident advance person while while seeking his registration shall make an advance deposit of tax in any amount equivalent to the estimated tax value or the tax liability of a particular person. So you have to identify what is the tax liability, what is the tax amount that you have to pay, and accordingly the information has to be furnished or it has to be circulated, and within time limit or within specific time you have to see that the tax gets deposited in your account and it is further transferred to the central or the state government account. Registration of casual taxable person and NRI, that is non-resident individual person. So where any registration of the time is sought, such taxable person shall deposit an additional amount of tax equal to the installment of the tax liability for the period which the extension is sought, and the such deposit shall be credited to the electronic ledger of the utilized in the manner, that is the payment of VAT, interest penalty and other taxes act that is into existence or that have been ruling into existence. So in this way all the information has to be completed, all the information regarding to the debit and credit of the information, everything has to be provided in an effective way. Other provisions with respect to registration, that is registration by the Online Information Bureau and Retrieval, that is 31st September form number 30 is made applicable for this. Temporary registration or suo motu registration number 20. Cancellation of registration for the what, that is registration 70. Revocation of cancellation of registration, that is reference number of 2007, that is registration of 24. And lastly, application for cancellation of provisional registration under the section of registration number 29. So these are the various ways in which different forms has to be created. Now, as I've already earlier quoted, there are around 30 forms or 30 formats in which you have to get yourself registered and comply with the GST authorities. So the things or the amount that is been the dates that have been marked in the red color are of utmost importance, and accordingly you have to mandatorily comply all those practices. Next thing, depending on your size of business, scale of business, number of employees, you take a particular decision. Accordingly, the respective file has to be charged with the government. Now let's look at the brief historical perspective about various huge norms or the forms that have been required to be made or to be calculated or to be submitted with the GST authorities. First thing, GST RG, that is registration grant or registration format number 1. It is the application for registration. Form number 2, it is acknowledgement. Form number 3 is notice for seeking or additional information. Form number 4, reply, clarification or modifications if any. Registration number 4 is actually getting the registration certificate. Next is the application for registration benefit for the applicant and registration benefit for the seller also, and accordingly the information has to be conducted and it has to be maintained with all the factors. Then registration number 9, 7, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So in this way different types of forms are made available, and accordingly each and every trader, depending on his size of business, depending on sale of business, depending on the business vertical that he is dealing with, depending on a business cycle that you are looking for, all the formalities has to be complied accordingly, and the forms has to be submitted before the specific deadline. So if a particular person is not submitting the specific amount in a particular deadline, then accordingly the government may cancel your registration. Accordingly it may be revoked either by the state or the central authorities. Okay, any difficulty at this stage? Yes, and if you have any difficulty, you can please unmute yourselves or ask me questions, or either else you can drop a message in the chat box. I'll be able to reply it with you. Yes, any difficulty if you would like to ask, please ask. Otherwise, we'll move on to third chapter.